Going on YouTube, Cloverbell's here back with another Scarlet Violet video, and today we're going to be talking about 10 Pokemon that are underrated and underutilized just a little bit. So these are mons that are a little bit low in usage. They're not going to break the meta by any means, and for good reason, but they are going to make the difference in a lot of games just because of a specific role that they're able to fulfill. Hence why most of these are going to be niche options, okay? Now, these are mons that you have to put on the right team for them to do well, okay? They're not splashable like some of these S or A tier staples, and then all of a sudden you're gonna complain like, oh my god, this mon is not good, it's not winning me that many games. Because again, if you're a niche mon, your only job is to come into very specific matchups and do that job relatively well, okay? And the rest of the games, most of your games, they don't even come, which is fine, again, because they are a role-specific mon that you need to have on your team to make all the difference, whether it be the mirror matchup, whether it be something to patch up a particular matchup. Either way, if you're not playing those teams, then you're just not going to use it, which is fine. That's why you have 5 other Pokemon on your team. Okay, we'll also talk about potential teams that you can use them on, so this way you can try them out yourselves. And usually these are going to be options or squads in general that have had at least some results. So this way you have an idea of where you can probably slap it on. But yeah, all right. So without further ado, let's go ahead and let's start with niche option number 1. Okay, to start things off, I want to talk about this Pokemon right here, Toxicroak. So it's not every format where you get to make Toxicroak actually meta relevant, but this is the format where it actually can do something, and it has done something already. First of all, poison fighting typing. Okay, there's actually a Pokemon that right now that is on fire in terms of this typing. You may have heard of it. It is actually the Sneasler, okay? And you already know how strong this thing is, okay? So if you really wanted like an upgrade from Toxicroak, just use the Sneasler. But there are some things that Toxicroak can do that Sneasler cannot do, okay? First of all, let's talk about some of their, commonalities. They both like to run Fake Out, of course, so Toxicroak can definitely use that. And then, base 106 attack stat is not bad by any means, okay? 85 speed, not the greatest, but you can still put this on potential like Tailwind teams where you can actually do relatively well. But Dry Skin, if you put this in the rain, or if you put this, in front of a water attack, you can kind of just heal yourself, which is kind of funny. It's almost like Inherent Leftovers, Inherent Berry by that means. So that's pretty cool. And then at the same time, you have the Close Combat Stab Fighting move that the Sneasler can also give you, right? And then at the same time, you have the Poison Stab move, which is very, very good. In this case, you can do Gunk Shot, okay? And if you ask me if I prefer Gunk Shot over, Dire Claw, never, okay? I think Dire Claw is so good. It can just win you games and sets immediately just because of all of this that it can do, the Sleep Poison Paralysis, right? Whereas Toxicroak doesn't get that, but it does give you more damage with Gunk Shot. Of course, you do have to deal with the accuracy, but at the same time, and listen, you can still fulfill a niche with this thing, right? And it has had some results already. So you can either just put Protect over here. You can also do something like Knockoff with the Assault Vest set. I have seen this before too. You can also consider something like Taunt here, and then just run like a Sash set. You could do Sash, or you could even just do like Goggles or something. But either way, I think it can do very well on some teams, especially like a Rain type of team where you can really utilize the Dry Skin stuff, okay? So something like this where in terms of a squad, I would just do like Pelipper or Keladin stuff with Amoonguss, of course. Again, one of the best trios right now, and then you slap on this Toxicroak, and then just do relatively standard stuff. Just slap on like Goldango, and then just add Basque Legion, and there you go. This is a 6 that will do well, okay? First of all, these 5 are standard. It's one of the best 5 you can have right now in regulationH. This slot is usually something like, Salamence, Incineroar, some other dragon type, and then it's always like a filler. Whatever you want to put in there, it can do the job. How about Toxicroak in here? And it actually has. So, you can definitely consider stuff like this. And then, just standard stuff. The Goldango can have, just like a Life Orb set. It can do, Make It Rain, Nasty Plot, Shadow Ball, Protect. This thing can have the Choice Band. Okay. I won't build the fill team, but you understand what I'm saying, right? So, again, fighting coverage, great into the mirror matchups like Arkeladin for that matter, and then it's good against King Gambit, where you can click that fighting move, good against Terra Steel Goldangos. Then obviously the poison coverage, also really good against stuff like Rillaboom. It's good against Primarina running around. So you have that going for you. Obviously, Sneasler has more advantages because of Dire Claw and the speed stat. as well as a higher attack stat. But Toxicroak can still do something for you if you put it on the right squad, and this is that squad right here. So I definitely like it a lot. I think you can definitely give it some consideration for what you want it to do. So definitely explore Toxicroak. I think it's pretty decent. Next up, I want to talk about two Pokemon at the same time because I think they can fulfill a similar role, but of course they are two different options at the same time. First, I want to look at Ceruledge, then we'll take a look at Chandelure. So two commonalities already, the typing, Fire Ghost, and at the same time, they both have Flash Fire. So, you know, these are things that can come into like Torkoal Eruptions and just soak that in, and then you get a plus in terms of your attacking stat. And then at the same time, you know, again, think about Typhlosion, right? The Whimsicott wants to click Sunny Day or Tailwind. The Typhlosion wants to click Eruption. You swap in the Ceruledge, soak that in, and then you put pressure on it next particular turn. So very standard set here. You could do something like Bitter Blade here. Then I've seen the Bulk Up set, of course, with something like Poltergeist here, believe it or not, and then just Simple Protect. This is a Pokemon that we saw do relatively well in the Victory Road Challenge about a week or two ago. So I think it just makes sense what you can definitely do with it, especially with like Terra Grass. You could just sit in front of stuff like Volcarona or even just other water types in general too, right? So that's also pretty good for it. You can also technically go with the niche Terra Dark. I have seen this a couple times, and you can kind of just sit in front of Size Spam and say, what do you do now, right? Because again, you can't take any damage from the fighting type attacks from something like the Gallade. And then at the same time, the only thing that's really hurting you is something like a Hatterene, but not everybody has the Hatterene, so you have to just consider that. So, but overall, I just think Terra Grass is just a little bit better. But again, Bulk Up, pretty good setup here. You're boosting up your attack and defenses, and then you're just going to deal more damage, which in turn makes you, heal back up a little bit more every other turn, right? So you could definitely do something like that. I have seen something like Grassy Seed with the Ceruledge, because, they are on the same teams as Rillaboom here, so you're trying to round out this Fire, Water, Grass core. So I have seen that. So now what you can do is you can get your defense, and then you go for Bulk Up. Now you're +1 attack, +2 defense, which is pretty funny when you think about it. But again, pretty good mon. Puts pressure on the opposing Rillaboom, puts pressure on the Amoonguss, especially when you're Terra Grass. They can't really do anything to you. And again, you can also Terra Grass in front of fire types. They can't hit you because, again, of the Flash Fire ability. So I do like Ceruledge in this type of format. I think it's pretty interesting in terms of where you want to put it. The type of team where I have seen it is, of course, that VR Challenge team where you had the Rillaboom and the Primarina, all right, to give you this Fire, Water, Grass core. And then you had the Sneasel stuff, right? So again, the Fire Poison typing, just like the Gunk Shot, Toxicroak here. And then just round it out, with the King Gambit and the Electabuzz over here, for Trick Room matchups, Redirection, Amoonguss Immunity, just something with Taunt too, and then Speed Control, with Electro Web. So you can definitely just use something like this. And then the Ceruledge can do relatively well. And it has done relatively well. But again, it's not something that you could just put on any single team and just say, all right, I'm going to take out my Volcarona and just throw in Ceruledge and boom, I patch up my matchups. It's not how it works, okay? So I would definitely consider using this thing. And the other Pokemon, again, like we said, was the Chandelure. Now, the Chandelure, just like the Ceruledge, also, like we mentioned earlier, has the Flash Fire ability. But at the same time, you are a special attacker, so you don't really care for Intimidate drops, whereas the Ceruledge can get intimidated. But you do get two other moves that is pretty useful. You get Haze, so technically this could be like your Dondozo answer. You could go like Terra Grass here to sit in front of that. And you also get access to Trick Room, which is pretty nice. So now you can give yourself some speed control for your team. And I like this a lot. The fact that you can have Haze and Trick Room just means a lot. Means you can have this fulfill that Dondozo role and actually have, anti-Trick Room stuff. Anti-Tailwind stuff on your team. So I do like this a lot. And there's a couple teams that have used this to a great success. And it almost looks like the team we just pulled up. So imagine I just put the King Gambit and the Electabuzz again. Then you add the Primarina. Okay, and then you add the Rillaboom, right? So almost the same idea, right? Where you have this Fire, Water, Grass core along with King Gambit, Electabuzz, and then you technically can put the Sneasel here. Okay, so I know I like literally took off this core and then I just added it back in, but you can do this, right? Or you can just put another dragon here. You could put stuff like Dragapult for that matter. That's also pretty good. You could even do something like Dragon, you could do like Como. I have seen success with this at the same time, so I think that works too. You could even put something like Salamence over here, right? You could definitely do that as well. But again, look, you got your Dragon, Fairy, Steel, Fire, Water, Grass core, so it definitely works. Okay, you just need the right type of arc makeup to have it work, and I think this is one of those teams where it can do it. So you can definitely just consider that. And again, if you don't like it, you can just literally add back the Sneasel, and it's fulfilling a similar role that the Ceruledge was. And now you have access to Haze and Trick Room, which means you don't have to put Haze on your Primarina. You can go a little bit more aggressive, or you can put Haze on the Primarina and not need to go Haze over here, and then just do like your Shadow Ball, Heat Wave stuff over here. So you can definitely consider that. And then at the end, you just put Protect with the Focus Sash idea. So I think both are good. But again, you just need to explore them a little bit and bring them in the right matchups, and they can do well. Next up, let's talk about Braviary. So Braviary has made a small resurgence in this format, and that's pretty cool because again, there's not too many opportunities where you're going to get to use Braviary. But again, looking at its ability, Defiant, so it puts it in the same category, something like Annihilate, something like King Gambit, a potential Defiant user that you can use to deter Intimidates. So this means you're going to want to put it on something where you have a couple physical attackers that don't have a clear amulet, where you can really punish the Intimidates onto those Pokemon, and then you yourself get an attack boost. And this is a format where flying typing is really good right now because so many people are trying to find fighting types to fit onto their teams because they want answers into King Gambit, into Archeladon, into Terra Steel Goldangos. So flying typing looks really good against those answers in general. And then at the same time, you have speed control on your side. You have Tailwind, which is pretty cool. And we mentioned the hard-hitting Brave Bird. Look at this 123 attack set. That's pretty solid at the end of the day. I like that. The bulk is good with the 100 HP. The defense and special defense, they're like just about average, no more than that. Then you also get close combat, which is cool because even though it's not stab, at the very least, you have a strong fighting type attack into those steel types at the same time. So I like that a lot. And then, just normal typing, you can switch this into, a Shadow Ball Godango for that matter. You could bring this as a pivot against a potential ground type attack from a Blood Moon or Saluna, like Earth Power or Earthquake. You can pair this next to something like a Garchomp that can Earthquake next to it with maybe something like a Life Orb. But at the end of the day, again, just putting Protect here is pretty standard and consistent. In terms of a team, you might as well just put it on my Sand team. Just instead of Dragonite, you just put the Braviary. And this is a team that I know some of you have seen before. And it has done well, and it still continues to do well, right? You had the Sandcobra, Tyranitar, and Excadrill. Then we had the Primarina, the Volcarona, okay, and the Sinistcha for the Fire, Water, Grass core, okay? And our team literally is this 6. The only difference is we have the Dragonite over the Braviary slot, which is a very good team because multiple people have been top cutting a lot of tours with that team, and that's good. The fact that we can build good teams and people are getting great results with what we've been able to provide during coaching, right? So anyway, if you needed a squad with Braviary, just give this one a go. But again, it's a pretty good niche mod for what we want it to do. You can see that you can put this on 2 physical attackers like this, where if you don't want to run the clear amulet on the Excadrill, because you're going to miss out on some KOs on some attacks, just put a Life Orb here. This way you're going to encourage teams to try to intimidate these options. But then this is where you bring in the Braviary with the Excadrill, and then at the same time, if the Excadrill is clicking Earthquake, you can just bring in the Braviary, and then you don't really care, right? So lead the Sand duos, then click Earthquake, switch in the Braviary on the T-Char slot, and then you can just kind of whiff it, right? So I like this a lot, so give it a go, and hope you enjoy Braviary if you do try it. Next up, I want to mention Milotic. So Milotic is in an interesting spot right now. The people are looking for other water types besides Primarina. And there's a few that you can use, but there isn't many. And Milotic can actually fulfill a niche that Primarina cannot do, okay? And we'll talk about that. But let's look at the stats first. Look at the bulk, 95 HP, 125 special defense. So kind of like Primarina, where you have good special defense, but you have more HP, which is good. And you have a little bit more defense, which I like a lot. Again, it's only 5 points more. And the special attack, not so great, but there is a difference in terms of how we want to use the Milotic, okay? First of all, again, competitive. where again, good in front of the Intimidate Mons, stuff like Salamence, Incineroar, and whatnot. But the things that Milotic can do that Prim can't is the Coil Hypnosis set. This is annoying, okay? This is something that Primarina can't do. And then at the same time, you just have Muddy Water that's like really, really accurate. You can get those accuracy drops, which is kind of funny, can win you a lot of games. Protect here, stuff like Leftovers over here. Terra Dragon set, of course, is the most common thing to use on this thing. But at the same time, Milotic, just like Braviary, you want to pair this on some physical type mons that can really take advantage of the competitive boost, right? So again, I'm just thinking about like pretty standard stuff. So imagine stuff like, Talonflame, okay? Goldango, Amoonguss, okay? Pretty standard core. Then you add Tyranitar, and then you add something like Garchomp over this, right? Now, normally you would want Primarina over here just to like kind of give you that Haze user in terms of that water type, and maybe even give you that fairy type, but you don't necessarily need it. You could always just run Clear Smog on the Amoonguss, and then that could be like your Dondozo answer into that. So Milotic looks pretty good here. Again, it can just come in, be that late game option, with a bunch of coils, and just hypnosis things, put things to sleep, and then just have these other options do tons of damage, right? And if it's a Goldango, then if you just put things to sleep, this is like free nasty plot setup, and then you can just maybe even do it again and just go for like big make it rains, right? But again, in terms of the ability, that's what we wanted for the water typing. Again, just besides the Primarina, you can do some decent damage here with the Muddy Water. Your defense boost, this is why you're running Coil, which is okay. Now, again, the Muddy Water doesn't get the boost from the Coil, but that's okay. We don't need it. We just need it to hit. Okay, the accuracy drop is very valuable in itself, along with the sleep stuff. So Milotic is in an interesting spot. I still think Primarina is just overall better, but if you really wanted to play it, I think you can just put something like Clear Smog on Amoonguss, or just give something else like Haze or whatnot, and then all of a sudden the Milotic becomes playable. But just like the Braviary, you want to pair it with at least 1 or 2 physical attackers that can definitely benefit from the having competitive, so this way you can discourage Intimidates. And then at the same time, I just want to show you like a couple of teams just from using the LabMouse website that I've had success with Milotic. So you could, again, here's the Murkrow over here, here's Tailwind. Fire, Water, Grass covered Rillaboom, Arcanine, and Sneasel. So like these are 3 options that, again, don't really want to be intimidated, but Milotic can make all the difference by discouraging that altogether. So now you have a Terra Fairy option here, Scald, Icy Wind. Okay, so you have the potential burn chance, then you have speed control here. You can definitely consider that. Draining Kiss is a little bit niche. I don't know about that one, but I can totally see that working in certain niche scenarios. This one, in terms of the Wide League, this is a pretty good team. Again, it does have the Tyranitar that we mentioned. But here's your Fire, Water, Grass code, Rillaboom, and Talonflame. Again, this was our Amoonguss over here, but you got Clefable in this sense, so it can kind of work out, I guess. And again, here's that Muddy Water Coil Hypnosis set, so this is pretty cool. I like this. But again, just the way that we built it, that's kind of how we want to play Milotic. So if you want to test it out, just give this 6 a go. Alright, so next up, I want to talk about Greninja over here. So Greninja is one of those Pokemon where, like, okay, again, you look at this typing, Water Dark, and you're already thinking of a couple of things. You're thinking this, the Samurott, the Hisuian Samurott that we just did a team building video around. So that's another Water Dark type. But again, when you look at these 2 typings, you think Goldango. You can kind of sit in front of it, because again, you get to resist Make It Rain, and 2, you get to resist Shadow Ball. So there's your niche right there. But at the same time, Dark typing good against Psy Spam, because again, they can't click Expanding Force in front of you, which is really, really nice. And then you have access to Taunt, of course, so you can taunt potential NDD Follow Me's, taunt other Trick Rooms if for that matter. You're not affected by the terrain because you're not Prankster, which is great. So you're a fast taunt user. And then your special attack stat is pretty solid. It's okay. But you do have Water Shuriken, which is what people are running over here. So if you have the loaded dice set, obviously this Water Shuriken is just going to do a little bit more. And then you have access to Haze, which is really cool. So the fact that you have this gives you that anti-setup answer against Dondozo, that anti-stuff against Annihilate. You can kind of sit there and, haze all those buffs away and then just go for the Water Shurikens, right? So that being said, you still want some decent damage out of this. And there's an idea that you can do It involves yet another familiar rain core with Pelipper, Archeladon, of course, and the Amoonguss, right? So I would, again, just always use these three. Then you have your Greninja over here, and then you could just add something like Goldengo, which is pretty good. So again, if you do fear the fighting type coming into you, just switch in to the Goldengo, your ghost type, and you're kind of okay from there. So I would just build around this 5, and I think this is okay. This side, you can do whatever you want. But, you know, just it depends on how you want to play the team. But at least just put it on the rain team. Your Water Shuriken can just do more damage. You can have like Tailwind support, or, you know, with the Pelipper over here if you really wanted to, or Helping Hand. But I do like this idea with the Greninja. So again, relatively niche. Has won some tournaments, you know, just by putting it on rain. So if I were you, I would just use this 5 and see how it goes. Next up, I want to talk about Blaziken over here. So remember when I mentioned earlier how the format is always looking for like strong fighting types right now for the matchups into Archeladon, Kingambit, and the Terrasteel Goldengos? Blaziken fulfills that role very, very well. So believe it or not, it's a decent mon. I've been using it a little bit, and it's actually quite good, especially when you can get a speed boost going. So ideally, you can just easily like detect turn 1, get that speed boost going, and then just outspeed everything, right? The fact that you can reach 145 with Jolly is important because after a +1 speed boost, you outspeed Dragapult. So then you basically outspeed the fastest mon and the fastest relevant Pokemon in the current format. So after that, then you can go for your close combat, which hits very, very hard because again, base 120 attack is actually still pretty decent. Usually you run Focus Sash as a result of that, which again is totally fine because you can still always take that hit. Then you have the Flare Blitz, which does break your Sash, but again, still strong if you can just use it in the right case. And then over here, you can have a couple of moves. I've seen the Fire Pledge stuff, but I'm always a little bit iffy on the Pledge stuff. So I like what Ryan did, and Ryan, aka Sableye VGC, he had coaching on this, and I think that's the way to go. If you're going to be getting speed boost and the fact that you can outspeed Dragapult, why not put both on the same team, right? Wait a turn, you know, not like wait, but like do some damage first, then take advantage next turn after your coaching boost. And then boost the Dragapult, and then the Dragapult gets to move, and then the Dragapult can take advantage and just hit hard with +1s, and then still be relatively bulky in terms of your defensive stat, right? So I like that out of Blaziken. So pretty cool in terms of what we wanted to do. So if we just preview Ryan's team over here, this is what he had at Baltimore, and he's also released a rental, which hopefully we can use relatively soon. But this is the idea. So shout outs to Ryan for something cool here. But it's essentially that Sneasel idea core with Dragapult. So again, I like the bus Kingambit, Primarina, Rillaboom, and instead of Volcarona, you have something like a Blaziken over here, which again is still like totally fine. It just makes sense. So you can coach the Dragapult, you can coach the Kingambit, you can coach the Rillaboom. So lots of things that you can coach, and they're all gonna enjoy the defense boost, like especially Kingambit. So you already have like a special defense boost with the Assault Vest. Now if you can get a coaching boost, and now you can get a defense boost at the same time with your special defense up, now you're just hard to kill. And then you'll get like passive recovery with Grassy Terrain. So I really like this idea with Blaziken over here. So definitely consider it if you really want to try and make it work. So shout outs to Ryan. Thanks for making the rental public. I did see that. So if you want to use it, feel free to get it from their channel. But, you know, again, Blaziken, niche mon, but can do the job in the right case. Next up is one of my favorite options, and that is Gastrodon. Yo, if you know how to position this thing, you beat more than half the format, okay? And let me tell you how that's so. So you got some bulk on you, of course, the big HP and the decent special defense and a little bit of an average defense, right? But that's okay. So Storm Drain with water ground typing is very, very strong, obviously. So think about the water type attacks from Primarina clicking Hyper Voice. You could kind of soak that in, and the Primarina is going to have a hard time damaging you because all it can really click after that is just Moonblast, and you can kind of sit in front of that and say, you know, that's not a big deal. So then after that, you know, water ground typing. So ground types, again, you can kind of switch into the Electro Shot Archeladon, which is really, really nice. And then, you know, just in general, these water attacks from Basculegion and like we said, the Primarina, they're just not going to do any damage into you. But then at the same time, you consider the ground type advantage. So you have Earth Power over here, okay? Then you have Speed Control with Icy Wind. So you can even just consider that. Or you have Yawn, which again forces positions because again, they have to make a choice. Do I go to sleep or do I want to switch out and bring something else in and be out of position still? Then you have longevity with stuff like recover. And then you can also do something like this with clear smog. So this can be your Dondozo check, right? So lots of utility coming out of Gastrodon. You can do the citrus berry over here. You can do leftovers, you know, multiple sets that you can consider. But at the end of the day, you know, depending on what you want to use Gastrodon for, it can definitely do the job. Can't come to every game, but, you know, in some of these matches, it does well. So, like, think about it. Goldango, you can wall out. You can wall, you know, Instant, Earth Power that. Earth Power the King Gambits. You can even click Clear Smog into Primarina because, again, it's a poison type attack. Does super effective damage at the end of the day. You've got Earth Power into Archeladon. You can yawn the Archeladon. You can sit in front of the Electro Shot, obviously. You know, Sneasler doesn't want to take ground type attacks. What else does it? Good. Tyrannotars also don't want to be doing that. And then, you know, just adding this to a Fire, Water, Grass core is just always going to be solid, right? So you could just add Rillaboom here with Volcarona, for example, and then this is a pretty good Fire, Water, Grass core, and then just kind of build off of that. So, you know, you want to click a water move into Volk, but then you have the support of Gastrodon, and then you're just kind of okay at the end of the day, right? So I would always just start with this in terms of a Fire, Water, Grass core, and then continue to build the team from there. But I can show you a couple teams that have done well. So this is from a Himi-Turnitor Tiagon. Okay, so he's doing Gastrodon, Rillaboom, and Talonflame for his Fire, Water, Grass core. Then he's got the Sandboys with Garchomp, T-Tar, and then here's Goldango. So look at this set. Clear Smog, Muddy Water, Ice Beam, Recover, along with Terra Fire, Storm Drain, right? That's Terra Fire pretty good against the Rillabooms. So you have your Dondozo check here, and then you also have some ice coverage, right, against the other dragons, and then Muddy Water is your other stat move. So this is pretty cool. Then we look at Stefan's Baltimore team, right, aka Pengy. And he has the Fire, Water, Grass core that we like, Volcarona, Rillaboom. And then look at this, Yawn, Earth Power, right? So again, Yawn with the leftovers, really, really solid. Then over here from Snaf 2 from the Wide League, Earth Power, Yawn, Clear Smog, that's one of our favorite sets too. Again, Terrifier on all of these. This is a Grimmsnarl, Screens, Mousehold stuff. Then Zardychar's team, again, the similar sand idea as Tiagon over here, but a couple of different ideas. But first of all, Earth Power, Yawn, Icy Wind, protects Terrifier. Standard stuff. Then you get T-Tar, Goldango, Ursaluna, and an extra double ground type. Wait a minute. 1, 2, 3 ground types. I don't think you need that many ground types. Okay, then you had this from the Sky Pillar VGC tour from Bluid. Again, so there's the Talonflame, Rillaboom, Goldango that we saw from the first team. And then you have the Hydreigon and Goldango over here. And then we have a Cleaver for some reason, but I understand that, you know, they want to do some stuff with sharpness and set up hazards. I think there's better options in this slot, but again, it still works at the end of the day. It's still a very, very good team. But again, Gastrodon having that nice solid niche role on teams like this, again, with the Clear Smog, removing buffs, and then Yawn and Icy Wind for control purposes, and then your standard stat move with either Earth Power or something like a Muddy Water. I think another prankster Pokemon that often gets overlooked is something like Illumise. So this thing is actually kind of annoying. So we already know, like, Tailwind, we've had other prankster users that can get Tailwind, and, you know, overall those are better options, but there's a couple things that Illumise has in the little toolbox that some of the others can't do. So if you just go down the list here, it has quite a bit of a cool move. So first of all, you got Encore, that's really good. I did see Endeavor there, that's pretty cool. You also get Fake Tears here, and Whimsicott can do that too. So that's pretty cool. And then at the same time, you know, you, again, just keep going down here just in terms of the sets. Helping out, of course, Light Screen. So you can do some screen stuff if you really want. And then as you Thunder Wave, like Prankster Thunder Wave is really good with Tailwind. Like Tailwind and Thunder Wave at the same time is also kind of funny if you want to, you know, just go that direction. And then as you keep going down, look at this. Then you get access to Charm over here, which is kind of funny. Like Prankster Charm, Whimsicott can do that too. Then as you also continue, again, Rain Dance, that's the like main selling point where you can do this that Whimsicott can't do. Like Whimsicott can give you Tailwind, it can give you Fake Tears, it can't give you Rain Dance, and this is where like Illumise can definitely find its niche on like a potential weather team, for example. So I think that's something that it can do. And then maybe you can even just go for the Encore set and just go like Focus Sash over here. And I think this is like a decent set. So you can even just slap this on to like the Pelipper or Archeladon stuff, right? and then just have the standard, you know, Amoonguss Goldango, you know, idea. But I do think an Illumise does merit a use on an Archelidon team, because like look at this, right? If you have like fake tier support along with Tailwind and manual Rain Dance against the Whimsicott, you know, you are the slower weather setter. So in this case, if you're both going for weather, then the Illumise would triumph it, right? So you could do fake tiers, you know, to support the Archelidon, fake tiers to support the Archelidon, and even the Pelipper to an extent, right? So you got a lot going for you if you want. And then, you know, now you don't have to force the Pelipper to go for Tailwind. Now you can just do Hurricane, Wide Guard, and Weather Ball, and then you can have Protect in the last slot. You could even have Helping Hand if you really want. But either way, this is something that Illumise can definitely do for a rain team like this. So I would definitely just go with this core. Again, not too many options for, you know, Tailwind Prankster setters. Like you do have Whimsicott, you do have Murkrow, but that's pretty much it. Everyone's been using stuff like Talonflame or bulky, you know, Hydreigon Tailwind users, Salamence, but Illumise can definitely like give you something. And then I also definitely recommend Covert Cloak at the same time here. So, you know, and this way you don't get the pressure of getting faked out if you don't have Protect, but I would definitely do something like this. So, yeah, moving on to the next. Okay, I'll close out our 10 list here with Quaquaval. So this is a pretty interesting Pokemon. And shoutouts to our guy Blake Silver for, you know, coming up with a cool team to really utilize it. But look at what it can do here. Okay, first of all, Moxie is always scary, right? Because when you pick up a KO, you get a +1 attack boost. And this attack stat is already like relatively high. So that's already one thing to consider. Then you add the Focus Sash here with Close Combat, right? So first of all, again, Water Fighting type. Again, think about Urshifu. But instead of Urshifu in the rain, we have Quaquaval in the rain, which is, I'm sure, what, you know, Blake was trying to do here. And then look at this. You have Aqua Jet to pick up a KO here that can give you that Moxie boost in the rain. So that's also pretty cool. Then you have Aqua Step, which, again, does a decent amount of damage, and it raises your speed. So, again, with this 85 speed tier, look at this. Okay, it's another Pokemon that, you know, well, 144 will just give it that Moxie boost. Not Moxie boost, that speed boost that you can outspeed Dragapult with. And then after this, you know, these are just like essentially leftovers. So you could just dump this here. And then now what you're looking at is something that can just outspeed everything and then just one-shot things because of Moxie, right? So you have the speed boost going for you, and then you have the attack boost going for you, which is kind of funny, right? And then you just slap it on the standard raid team, which is what Blake did, right? So over here you have Archelidon, Amoonguss Goldango stuff, okay? And then at the same time, you have the option for this slot. Whatever it is you want, you can do something like Salamence. I think it's okay. That's what Blake did. But look at this. Again, I like this because you get to use Quaquaval, first of all, and the fighting coverage, great into the steel types that we mentioned throughout the video. And then the damage in the rain from the Aqua Step and the Aqua Jet to make it so that you can get potentially a speed boost and an attack boost in one turn while even still keeping your Sash intact. Is quite good. And then the Amoonguss, of course, can really protect the Quaquaval in a lot of cases. So I do like this a lot. And again, it's niche. You know, you're not going to bring it to every game, but it's pretty good in the mirror, right? Because if you want to bring this into the mirror matchup, the Pelipper is going to give you more damage. The Archelidon is going to be a little bit of afraid. The King Gambits on the Archelidon teams are also going to be a little bit iffy. The Insins at the same time, sure. You know, you may be able to intimidate the Quaquaval, but if you bring out the rain, then your water attacks are still going to essentially pick it up anyway. And then you also still have close combat for something like Ursaluna's if they don't go Terra Ghost. So, you know, Quaquaval got a lot going for it. And this is the easy team that you can really use to pilot it. So shout outs to Blake for coming up with something like this. But yeah, that's our 10. So let me know what you thought of our list. I feel like there's also a couple of honorable mentions that always, you know, they never make my top 10 underutilized, but I also want to just give them a couple of shout outs here. So here's one, Crocodile. Okay, now Crocodile, you know, if you just add a Life Orb on this thing is going to do a lot of damage, right? So a Dark type would Intimidate. You're already thinking of Incineroar. So you get to sit in front of Psy Spam. You get to sit in front of Electroshock from Archelidon. You're a ground type. And at the same time, you have Intimidate. So you have three things going for you here. And that's why I like it a lot. So something like high horsepower and knockoff, along with something like Protect here. You know, again, you're just removing key items. It's a stab knockoff. You have high horsepower against the steel types and the fire types. So I do like Crocodile in certain cases, and this could even fit your Incineroar role if you really already have a fire type in general. Another one is the Mimikyu. So unfortunately, Disguise is not as good this generation because you know, you're taking all this damage, but at the same time, you know, another Life Orb user just like Crocodile that can do stuff like this with Play Rough, and then you have Curse, and then you have Trick Room. I put Cut. Okay, that's not Curse. But anyway, let me put Cursed here. And then you could even do something like Shadow Sneak, so, or even Shadow Claw. But again, with Curse, if you're a Ghost type, you can drop your speed, then you get the attack and the defense boost, which is really good. Or you can just change your Terra type and then just chip something like Dondozo away. I remember this was the thing back in Regulation A, where Mimikyu would always just go for the Terra Curses, and then Dondozo or stuff like Dondozo would just drop eventually, right? So you can definitely play it like that. I think that deserves merit. Something like Drifblim also with the Unburden boost, you have access to both Tailwind and Trick Room depending on the case. But again, you are another Ghost Flying type, which is really good. You have Acrobatics. If you put this on, let's say Grassy Seed, or you know, even Psychic Seeds, where you can just get the speed boost going, outspeed everything, hit very, very hard. You are a flying type, so this Acrobatics is doing a lot. And then you have something like Shadow Ball, which is great into, you know, Goldengos and Dragapults and whatnot. Because again, you get to outspeed it after the seed boost, so your defense is not bad, but because you're getting the Grassy Seed boost. But also, you know, you could do that for your special defense if you want to put the Indeedee Second Terrain on it. Either way, I think Drifblim definitely has a niche with a set like this, so I definitely you know, put it in the underrated category for sure, without a doubt. I'm just trying to think of some others that we did not get a real chance to mention. There's a few others that I kind of want to put on here that definitely think about it. So something like this. How about I always think about this Pokemon a lot. Bronzong, man. Like, to me, like, Bronzong is just never a bad Pokemon. Okay, you have immunity to all the ground type attacks. You are another Iron Defense Body Press Pokemon, okay, that can also go for Trick Room at the end of the day. And the stats for its bulk are good, like 116. Like, this is always going to be like a decent Mon. All right, you just need to put it on the right team. But I do like Bronzong. I think at some point within the meta, it'll find its niche, just not right now at this given moment. But yeah, I definitely like these four. Let me try and think of one more. I know there's like something else that I also want to mention that maybe we didn't really get a chance to really feature or even like discuss. Yeah, I'm not really sure. But again, I do like these four just on my radar. So again, these are my honorable mentions. But yeah, let me know if you guys can think of another. All right, so that's it for now. So let me know what you thought of our list, and hopefully you like the teams that we covered. So this way you can at least try them out, and it gives you an idea of what and where you can really use some of these options for. Okay, so we'll be back with another video in the next one. Peace out and have a good one.